Before long, this place is going to look a lot different.
Oh yeah.
Lake Superior is going to churn up, the snow squalls are going to start, and that means we got to start to winterize the Wilderstead.
One of the main things about winter chores in Wilderstead is we want to keep it as simple as possible. Right now, we have birds spread out everywhere.
All over the place, everywhere.
So we have 3 different flocks of birds. We have our broodstock, and they have a spot in the barn and their whole own run, like a huge run that they have off the barn.
And then in a completely separate area, we have their kids, which we raise for the meat. We'll be dealing with those in about another week or so we don't have to worry too much about those. Then we have the layers in the chicken coop behind us here.
So they live in the winter in the main coop, which also has a large outdoor run and a small protected outdoor run, which they mainly only use in the winter. The meat birds that we have are a white rock cross, so they're actually hybrid birds. They are really good at laying, and they lay eggs all summer long, these nice big brown eggs. So it's somewhat redundant that we have this flock of meat birds as well as a flock of layers. We've kept them separate so far because Cornelius, the rooster from the white rock cross, is very large, and he would be harmful to the smaller hens, and the rooster for the smaller hens is quite small, and his offspring wouldn't be big enough to eat. So those small hens and rooster need to fly the coop.
Yep, they're either going to become soup or they're going to find another farm somewhere nearby. Deciding that simplified things because now we only have to winterize this chicken coop. We don't have to deal with anything in the barn as far as chickens go.
Winterizing the chicken coop, because of the way we have it set up, actually doesn't take that long. We were able to get it done this morning. There are just a few things that we change between the way we run the coop in the summer and the way we run the coop in the winter.
We've mentioned before that the coop is not heated. There's no supplemental lighting or anything like that. The only thing that we do in there as far as warmth or heat goes is the heated water to prevent the water from freezing.
So the setup is quite simple. It's just one single unit, the heater, the water together, has a large lid so it's easy to pour water into it, and it's got little nozzles that the chickens can drink the water out of so you don't have water flying all over the coop, getting things wet, because dampness is your enemy in the winter. But what that means is we need to run some electricity into the coop because we do not have any electricity running in the summer.
The greenhouse that we grow food in year-round is electrified. So we run fans in there, we have a heater for backup. So all we do is we run an extension cord over to the greenhouse. That powers that simple little waterer.
So it's just a little tiny hole that we have in the side of the chicken coop. We run the extension cord through that, and then we attach it to the wall so it's not on the ground in contact with hay or the chickens walking on it. And it has the added benefit of making sure that the water doesn't swing around because it's attached to the wall as well, because that cord is.
It makes watering the chickens in the wintertime very simple. We just fill up a 3-gallon bucket in the house, bring it out, pop the lid off, pour the water in, put the lid back on, and it's done.
It's a snug lid, it's angled and slippery so chickens don't walk on it, and it's worked really well for us. So one other difference we have in the winter than the summer is the bedding. In the summer, when we put new bedding in, we remove the old bedding, but in the winter we start piling it on top of each other so that we can have a little bit more insulation in the coop.
And it's basically the deep litter method. So the bedding just keeps on building up in the bottom, building up in the springtime. We clean it all out. We don't worry about moving any of that stuff out over the winter months. Our preference is just this cut straw that you can get at most farm supply stores, places like that. It's really nice for the compost because it doesn't entirely break down, so it puts some organic matter into the gardens once we have composted it down and start amending the garden beds with it.
And it's super simple because we just need to dump in a pile of new straw, and the chickens, they spread it out themselves.
In the coop, there's a very large feeder. Just opens up at the top. You can fit an entire bag into the feeder. It makes it very simple for us because we just dump the entire bag of feed in and we don't have to worry about adding more feed constantly on a daily basis. We just check it every few days, make sure it's still full. Once it's empty, refill it. Now, once the season starts to transition from summer into fall, you tend to see more animal movement, more wildlife starting to move around this area. And unfortunately for us, we had a bit of a predator issue happening here. We're still not exactly sure what was getting in there. It could have been an owl, It could have been a coyote, could have been a raccoon. A number of these things we did catch on camera on our property.
Now that we know that we have these predators here and they know that we have chickens here, we've been coming out every night to close up the doors on each of these 3 coops. That'll be simpler in the winter because we'll just have the one, but we want to simplify it a little bit further and also get rid of the human element. What if we forgot to do the coop? What if we're out later than dark one night? Or like it happened to us the other day when we actually lost one of our chickens, is we were stuck in town because the road was closed due to an accident. So we decided this year to try out an automatic chicken door. The one we chose is from a company called Chick Cozy, and it's pretty cool because it can close based on light levels. So that will help us with the changing of the season. We don't have to worry about programming it for different times.
One thing we're going to have to figure out though is it runs off of a couple little batteries, and it gets really cold here. So the thing might freeze up. Hard to say, but we're going to test it out, see what happens. It'll definitely be useful over the summer months.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll be perfectly fine. The chickens don't necessarily come outside every single day in the winter anyways.
Yes, we'll be setting it up in their covered run, which is already pretty predator proof. It's got hardware cloth on all sides, but it's always good to make sure that you have some redundancy in your predator protection.
So that chicken coop door is on order. Once it arrives, we'll pop it in there and we'll let it run for a little while, and we'll let you guys know what we think of the functionality of it.